Welcome back, everyone. It is Mothman once again. I have gotten a better mic since last time, so hopefully this video is a little more bearable than the last one was to watch. Today we are coming back with another episode of deck sharing, this time featuring Sheoldred the Apocalypse as our commander for the deck. Let's go ahead, start looking at some cards, and dive right into it. As we talked about earlier, the main focus of this deck is going to be to force our opponents to draw cards. Every time that our opponent draws a card, they're going to be losing 2 life, and every time that we draw a card, we're going to be gaining 2 life. So I will not lie, this deck is extremely artifact heavy, so I've broken them into 3 different subsections. The first section that we're going to start off with is cards that focus solely around card draw. For example, we have cards like Horn of Greed, a 3-cost artifact that states whenever a player plays a land, that player draws a card. We also have cards such as Temple Bell that force each player to draw a card, once again causing us to gain 2 life while all of our opponents lose 2 life. We also have cards that force our opponents to gain or to draw more cards than normal, like Font of Mythos. So at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws 2 additional cards. Cards like Teferi's Puzzle Box that force each player to basically discard their hand and then redraw that many cards. So if they have 7 cards in their hand, they draw 7 cards after they discard them, and they lose 14 life. We also have cards like Howling Mine that cause them to gain another card every turn, once again causing our 2 damage tick into a 4 damage tick. We have cards like this one here that would say if you gain life, you gain twice that much life instead. So gaining our 2 life now turns into gaining 4 life with these, with every card draw. We also have thrown in cards like Memory Jar, Well of Lost Dreams, and this Anvil here. Moving on to our next section, we have cards that focus mainly on our commander itself, or the creatures that we have out on the battlefield. So for one, we have, of course, the Sword of Wealth and Power. So our equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from instants and sorceries, protecting our commander or our other creatures. It also says when this creature deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token, and when you next cast an instant or sorcery spell, you can copy that spell. There's a lot of things in this deck that we can copy, whether it be gaining mana, doing additional damage, forcing opponents to draw cards, so that's fantastic. We have thrown in the One Ring, of course, in here. Feel free to go ahead and read the effect on there. We've thrown in Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots, just further protecting our commander, because Sheoldred will be a big target on the board. Anytime people see Sheoldred come out, they're probably going to attack her, so we need some ways to protect her. Just like Commander's Plate here, so equipped creature gets +3/+3 and has protection from each color that is not in your commander's color identity. Equip a commander only costs 3, so we can equip this to our commander for only 3. We also have some mana rocks here, or I guess 1 mana rock. We of course have our Soul Ring, so add 2 colorless mana for the cost of 1. We do have Jet Medallion and Bontu's Monument, which both lower the cost of black spells by 1. We have Throne of Eldraine here, or Eldraine. As it enters the battlefield, we can choose a color. Of course, we would choose black. We can add 4 mana of that color for only 5 cost. And there is an additional effect that forces us to draw 2 cards. Once we draw 2 cards, we'll essentially be gaining 4 life. And we also have Bolus's Citadel in the deck as well. Let's go ahead and move on to our next card type, which let's go ahead and take a look at the creatures that are going to be included in this deck. As we're looking at creatures, let's go ahead and start off with creatures that can provide us with a win con. So we're going to go ahead and start off with Bloodthirsty Conqueror. This is one of the new cards from Foundations. It states whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. Essentially, it's a creature version of Exquisite Bond. We also have cards like Veto, Thorn of the Dusk Rose, and Enduring Tenacity that will basically, if one of these triggers, we will have a win con if one of the other is on board there. We also have cards that will boost the damage dealt to our opponents, like Bloodletter here. So a 4-cost Vampire Demon, 2/4, but basically doubles the amount of damage that our opponents are taking. We have cards like Purveyor of Truth here that will go ahead and cause our opponents to lose 2 life and draw 2 cards, compounding on top of Sheoldred's effect. So Sheoldred will deal 2 damage every time that they draw a card. This will force them to draw 2 cards at every upkeep. We have cards like Orcish Bowmaster that when it enters, they draw a card. So once again, 2 more damage, and then we will go ahead and get tick damage and be able to cast some tokens. We also have cards like Massacre Worm, Cryptghast, Crick, Dread Presence, Scrawling Crawler, the Grey Merchant, of course, Nirkana Revenant, and the Broker of Blood, all cards that will essentially cause our opponents to lose more life than they already would or draw more cards. We also have cards that will cause us to gain more mana, like this Nirkana Revenant here. We have cards like Witch of the Moors that will cause our opponents to once again, or will cause us to draw cards, gaining us life. Master of the Feast, causing our opponents to draw cards, losing life. Bloodgift Demon, further stacking on top of Sheoldred's card draw effect. Valgavoth, just an excellent mono black card there. We have Elder Brain, which once again is another card draw engine. We have Psychosis Crawler, once again stacking on top of Sheoldred's card draw mechanic there. We have Erebos Blackhearted, Sheoldred, and Sheoldred the Whispering One. So we actually have all 3 Sheoldreds in this deck. Should be a pretty as I stated in my Zool Assure video, I go pretty light on Planeswalkers in most of my decks. In this deck specifically, we've only included Liliana of the Dark Realms. Very well-known card. Starts off with 3 loyalty counters. If you gain 3 and subtract 6 loyalty counters, you have an emblem where swamps you control have gain 4 black mana or 4 swamps. We also have our +1 here, which is search your library for a swamp card, reveal it, then put it into your hand and shuffle. And our -3 loyalty counter is target creature gets +X/+X or -X/-X until end of turn, where X is the number of swamps you control. Basically, this is going to serve as a mana rock for us in this deck. It's going to turn all of our swamps. If we do get it out in time, it's going to turn our swamps into a 4 mana swamp instead of a tap for 1. As far as instants go in this deck, we're going to go ahead and start off with instants that'll gain us a fair amount of mana. We're going to go ahead and start off with Cabal Ritual. Cabal Ritual, a fantastic card, states add 3 black to your mana pool, or 3 swamps to your mana pool, and it has a threshold where if you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard, you get to add 5 mana instead. We also threw Dark Ritual in here, just the classic mono black, add 3 mana for 1 cost. Such a fantastic card. We also threw Withering Boon in here. So this is a mono black counter spell. So basically it's a 2 cost, pay 3 life, target counter summon spell. So you get to counter a creature spell for 2 mana and 3 life. We have thrown in Black Sun's Twilight, which basically is going to up to 1 target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn. If X is 5 or more, return a creature card with mana value X or greater from your graveyard to the battlefield. So we can return cards to the battlefield that we want, especially some of our cards that are going to be win cons, like what we went over. We do have Vampiric Tutor in here, so we have a Tutor. We have Baleful Mastery, so we can pay 1 and a black rather than pay this mana spell cost, or this spell's mana cost. If 1 and a black was paid, an opponent draws a card, once again making them take 2 damage, and exile a creature or planeswalker. So just removal spell that could also have some additional life loss for our opponents. We have Withering Torment, just a common removal spell from Duskmourn here. We have this card here, which we can only play during our discard phase, and we pay X life to draw X cards, so this could be a life gain outlet for us here. And also Sheoldred's Edict, because of course it's a Sheoldred deck. Basically a removal spell, so each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature, each opponent sacrifices a creature token, or each opponent sacrifices a planeswalker. We choose one of the following. Last but not least, we'll go ahead and take a look at our sorceries here. So we'll go ahead and start off with Demonic Tutor, just a classic tutor spell. Basically pay 2, search our library for a specific card, then shuffle our library. We have Feed the Swarm, destroy a creature or enchantment, and we lose life equal to its mana value, so just a removal spell with some life loss. Damnable Pact, each player or target player draws X card and loses X life. Depending on who's getting targeted in this, if it's us or our opponent, could vary the amount of life loss there. We have Toxic Deluge, so as an additional cost to cast this spell, pay X life, and all creatures get -X/-X until end of turn. We do have Dark Deal, so each player discards all the cards in his or her hand, then draws that many cards -1. This is a great card in this deck, but not as good as Peer into the Abyss. Peer into the Abyss is probably the best card in this deck. So basically what Peer into the Abyss does, target player draws cards equal to half of the number of cards in their library and loses half their life rounded down or rounded up each time. This card right here, this is basically a win con with Sheoldred's effect. So if we're forcing an opponent to draw half of their cards, let's say they've already played 10 or 20 cards, so we'll just say they're drawing 40 cards instead of 50 cards instead of their full deck, they will lose enough life for us to win the game. Sign in Blood here. Target opponent draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. So once again, this can serve as a damage outlet for us against our opponents, or a life gain outlet for us as well. And then we have Insatiable Artifice right here, or Insatiable Artifice. It has +2. Search your library for a card, then shuffle and put the card on top. And then +2 black here. target player draws 3 cards and loses 3 life. Next up, we will go ahead and look at our enchantments. So we do have Underworld Dreams in this deck. So whenever an opponent draws a card, Underworld Dream deals 1 damage to him or her, compounding on top of Sheoldred's life loss or gain effect. Wound Reflections. So at the end of each turn, each opponent loses life equal to the life he or she lost this turn. So doubling the life loss or life gain, or I'm sorry, just life loss, every turn can be fantastic for us, can really start to whittle down our opponent's total life. We have Greed in here, so pay 2 life, draw a card. So basically pay 2 life, draw a card, and we will go ahead and gain back that 2 life. So basically we're getting a free card draw there. We have Sanguine Bond and Exquisite Blood in this deck as well. Classic mono black win con. Essentially, just whenever an opponent loses life, we gain that much life, and whenever we gain life, an opponent loses life. An infinite loop that causes us to win. We do have Phyrexian Arena in here, so at the beginning of our upkeep, we draw a card and we lose a life. So drawing a card and gaining a life with Sheoldred's effect. And the Meat Hook Massacre. I don't feel like the Meat Hook Massacre needs that much explanation, but when it enters the battlefield, each creature gets -X until end of turn. Whenever a creature we control dies, each opponent loses a life, and whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, we gain 1 life. Alright everybody, so after looking at our Sheoldred deck, I hope you can see why she is such a force to be reckoned with. I will say, if you do happen to make a deck like this, Sheoldred will probably get knocked out in the beginning of the match. As soon as you cast her, somebody will probably try to remove her. She's incredible in the 99, let alone as the commander of your deck. So she probably will get pretty expensive towards the end. But once again, thank you guys so much for being here, for watching my videos, and if you did like it, please feel free to hit the thumbs up on the bottom, and if you really appreciate my channel, feel free to subscribe. Once again, thank you guys for watching my videos, and hope to see you on the next one.